listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
All right. Well, the sun is shining. The birds are chirping.
Are we recording?
Yes. And we are recording. Yes, we are, friend.
Oh, my goodness. Hey there, Mr. Vitale. What do you say?
Hey, how are we? I am burning the candle at both ends, people. It's life. It's just the way it is. We're really happy to be back with you here on the Balancing Act podcast. Jamie, how are you today?
I am aces.
You are
Thanks for
aces.
asking.
You got some. Is there more stuff? I love your little set behind you.
Thank you. Nope, it's been the same for a few months now.
Yes, I noticed nothing. Did you cut your hair? No, you didn't.
I didn't. Although I will shout out the president of our fun lunch bunch for this little gem over here. Everything happens for a Riesling.
Yeah, for a Riesling. I
like it. Yes, that was
Yes.
a Christmas gift that she gave me. Oh, Jesus. It's got to be at least, I'm going to say 10 years ago, maybe.
Dig it.
8?
Awesome.
I'll have to ask her. Yes. So I'm pretty excited about today's episode, Mr. Vitale. I am a buzz.
You know what? Me too. We have, you know what? And this is a first for the Balancing Act podcast because we have 2 guests.
Not one.
Not one.
But 2. We
but
love
2.
the double lifestyle.
We have 2 shiny new people coming in to join us. Let's bring them in.
Okay.
Well, hello, Chelsea Berwick and Bianca Nicolescu. How are you guys? So thank you very much for joining us today. So awesome to have you.
We're excellent. Thank you so much for having us. This is so exciting. We've never been the actual guests on a show before. We're always the one asking questions. So this is new.
Yeah. So we also want to take a moment to welcome anyone that is from the Aspiring Ed PodSquad podcast listening. Man, that's a mouthful. Listening audience. We actually appeared on their show. So just when this one drops, you'll find the episode on their podcast. They're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube podcasts. We're going to link it down below in our description. We had a great conversation. We encourage our listeners to go on over and, give it a listen and follow these guys because they're doing some awesome work. And, it's really great to have you guys with us here on the show. We had a great conversation and we're looking forward to continuing it with you guys here today. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
So ladies, can you tell us what NJAEA stands for?
Yes.
Of course. So NJAEA is the New Jersey Aspiring Educators Association. It's actually a little bit of a new name. We used to be called NJEA Pre-Service. So New Jersey Education Association Pre-Service because we were pre-service teachers. But we had some confusion with that name of people thinking, pre-service, that must be associated with the military in some way, which we're not.
Okay.
So and also an aspiring educator versus a pre-service teacher is much more inclusive and also so much more inspirational. So we changed our name to the New Jersey Aspiring Educators Association quite recently, just a few months ago.
Wow.
Awesome.
When was the original pre-service? When did that start? So how long has that been in action? Do you know?
I want to say at least 20 years, but we recently changed it in August, was kind of like the official move towards aspiring ed.
I
That's
like
awesome.
it. I like the name.
Me too.
I don't know that I was so aware. So, Joe and I both are teachers in New Jersey, as you two are aspiring teachers in New Jersey. And I am a proud member of the NJEA. I wasn't really sure that there was, a pre-service group. And I have had quite a few student teachers in my time and worked with some other, training and helping to train future teachers. So I'm so glad now that I know about it, to make sure that everybody can join and find, a group to be part of before they even begin. It's such an important thing to do.
Absolutely. And it's those 3 membership categories so people know too. So it's NJAEA, so anyone who's still in a teacher prep program, they're not yet in the field. Then it's the active members, which is you guys. And then after that, it's retirees, the Retirees Association. So it's sort of those 3 subdivisions of the union. So if that kind of helps people categorize it in their mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I actually want to jump into your show. Like where did the idea or the impetus come from you guys starting your own podcast for the NJAEA? we're going in reverse order because that's kind of our last question in our discussion. So now we're jumping right into it. We'd love to hear how, the idea came about and what you guys, why you put it together.
Well, let's start with Bianca. So Bianca, that's all you.
Well, okay, I'm gonna start the story, and I'm gonna let you continue the story. We'll do a little tag team here. But, it's started at NJEA and both of us joining this organization, NJEA Pre-Service. And, we had both been involved as leaders, like, on the leadership team for the state, and we were always looking for ways to engage with our membership on a deeper level because, sometimes it's difficult to have this expectation that aspiring educators can attend professional development sessions, can go to this event somewhere in the state, or engage the way that NJEA members regularly do, which, we have our own life on our college campuses, and often that's not the case. So us creating this podcast was kind of a way to reach members like in a virtual space and still be able to provide those resources for people. But really this started as an idea from our former staff contact, Hannah Pollack, and she had approached me about the idea, and I was super excited about it because I'm like, that's a really, really cool initiative. And so I kind of spent like November, December of 2022 planning, or 2023 kind of planning, what kind of episodes could we like, what does this look like? What should it look like? And that's when I came onto a leadership team meeting and I had presented the idea, and that's where I'm gonna let Chelsea take over.
Bianca mentioned the idea, and I thought it was a really cool concept. And I reached out to her and I said, if you need help writing questions or inviting guests, just let me know. And she texted back and she was like, well, I need a co-host if you want to join me. So that's kind of how it started. And we did like a test run of it in, I guess, January 24. We were like filming episodes over winter break and just kind of testing it out over Zoom, like in our bedrooms.
Bianca is laughing. So apparently there's definitely a story there, I'm sure.
It just took a while to figure it out and to get it right. And I think we re-recorded the same episode like 3 or 4 times over like trying to figure out audio and just how to get it to work. And we basically sent it to the people who we work with at NJEA, kind of like a pilot thing, and just said, this is the vision. Is this something that we could definitely work on? And they were all in. They said, absolutely. So we've worked very closely with NJEA Communications. And a special shout out to Chris Curto, who's our videographer, producer, editor, everything all in one. It would not be possible without him. So we actually do have a studio in NJEA headquarters. That's where we go and film in Trenton. And it used to be a studio. Then it was turned into like a little storage closet. And then we revived it in 2023 and turned it back into a podcast studio. But it's some high tech. We have a 2-camera setup. We have like mics up on the ceiling, a lot of lighting, and then that little like styrofoam thing on the walls to like insulate the noise. And actually, if you go outside in the NJEA Communications hallway there's a little sign that lights up when we're in there and it says on air.
Yeah, it is. We're there. It's legit.
Yeah.
Okay, it's legit. Like you guys are rolling deep with the technology. And we're jealous because you're looking at the team. Hey, Jamie. So that's the 2 of us. But no, it's really great that you guys are. I think there is so much space for different voices in the education world, especially because of what we are all experiencing. Right, we're all experiencing different challenges and things that are, definitely difficult in our profession. So whether you're a seasoned veteran teacher like Jamie and myself, or someone aspiring to be a teacher like these 2 wonderful young ladies, like definitely give them a listen and check it out, because I think there's learning opportunity for everyone, right? You guys are the shiny new model, right? So we get to like, hey, check out what you guys are learning all about. And what I'd love to know, because we actually didn't discuss this on our episode, like you are both juniors or seniors at this point?
Can I answer? Wait, can I answer?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let me answer. Chelsea's a junior and she wants to be a history teacher.
Yeah, girl.
And Bianca is a senior and she wants to be a math teacher.
Yes.
I know we do need math teachers, although math.
We didn't have a Bianca. That was our problem.
Yes, and Chelsea, and Bianca. Chelsea, I was a history major myself at TCNJ, so go Lions, which is a little bit self-serving because I know that's where you guys go to school as well. So I'd love to ask, like, is this what you always wanted to do? Or you're like, I want to be a teacher? Like, what was your, like, driving force to to want to be aspiring into the classroom?
I mean, for me, it took me a while to figure it out. I really wasn't sure through most of high school. There was one point where I thought I was going to be a physical therapist, and then I realized how much science was behind it, and then I was like, no, that's not for me. But I think it was the teachers I had in my junior and senior year of high school. So shout out to Mr. Johnson, my A-push teacher, junior year, and junior year was a tough year. It was COVID. So I
Oh,
was sort of in and out of the building a little bit, and I chose to be in the building, and then there's like a hybrid model. But I went through A-push sort of in that tough year, and he was amazing. I also had Miss Horton, who we've talked about in the podcast. So I had her in the end of my sophomore years when COVID sort of shut everything down. But even though it was like an asynchronous model for my school, she still held Zoom meetings sort of after the regular school hours, just in case anyone wanted to log on and talk. And so a bunch of times I did that. And even though I was the only student with her, like it was just nice to be able to see one of my teachers again. So definitely
right.
cool. And then senior year, I took AP Gov, and that was with Miss Gregorakis. So shout out to her, and I worked very closely with her that year. And so I would say it was like the three of them who really inspired me to go into it. And I realized that I was very passionate about the content, but it was also just being in that school setting and being surrounded by students. And there's a lot of layers to it, right? Like a lot of the teachers that I've had, they're advisors for the clubs I was in. For Miss Gregorakis senior year, she was the advisor of the National Honor Society. So I worked closely with her to put on events and organize the induction. And so I think I'm just excited about the content and being around students and being in the classes, but also just being involved in like the extracurriculars and events of the school. And they sort of opened my eyes to what that could look like.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Bianca, what about you?
I have always known that I wanted to be a teacher. I just think back to when I was little, I was that one kid who always wanted to play school to the point where like I would call my friends on on the home phones, right? Like I would call them at home and they would be like, "Okay, I'll come over, we'll play, but we're not playing school." Like they knew that that's what I wanted to do, and it became a
That's
conversation
great.
of like, "I'm only hanging out with you if we don't," and I roped them into it anyhow. But eventually, I was left to just my stuffed animals. So I would play. I had my own little chalkboard and easel, and I would just like sit down and meticulously like look up worksheets and try to like mimic what my teachers were doing at school while also wasting insane amounts of printer paper on my like Beanie Boo stuffed animals that would not
That's
communicate with me, but
amazing.
that's okay. um I always say that they're the best students I've ever had.
So quiet.
But
So quiet.
so well behaved in my personal opinion. I mean, so well trained by me, but no, that's where it really all began, and I didn't know necessarily that I wanted to do math, um, but I've always known that I wanted to be a teacher. Of course, there was always, like, moments I was like, "Oh, I would like to be a marine biologist." I don't know. That was a very short phase, and I was always, like, in the mindset of becoming a teacher, and I think I chose math just because I like critical thinking and I like problem solving. It's always been, one of my strengths. And I just always wanted to share that with me, but surprisingly enough, I think some of the teachers who have inspired me the most or who have, like, motivated me along the way to stay with this pursuit of becoming a teacher have been my history teachers and not my math teachers. So, shout out to all the history teachers who have really showed me, like, you know, what teaching is all about and how to really connect with students, be it outside of just the content that you're learning and teaching.
Yeah, I wonder too. So I used to teach language arts. And now I teach social studies. And there was a point in time when like testing started to get so pressure filled and so out of control. And I wonder like if there's any kind of a correlation between the like attitude and behavior of the social studies teachers, because like we're the last of the non-tested subjects, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. So I almost wonder, like, and I think that I can see myself when I taught language arts and there was just so much pressure. So I wonder if that, leads them to like still like love teaching in its purest form, because there wasn't necessarily that same connection to the pressure of getting everybody to pass the test. Was COVID your senior year of high school, or did you get out, Bianca? And what was the biggest year affected for you?
I would say my junior year. So I had 2020 in March. That was like the end of my junior year. And then my
Okay.
senior year was hybrid. But I was the class of 2021. So,
Wow.
my freshman year of college was still with masks, but in person. And I know a lot of students who graduated high school in 2020 didn't necessarily have that same experience.
Yeah. I always felt bad for those kids, to be very
Yeah.
honest. Like to lose, especially as like seniors, like to lose like graduation and with which they just didn't have that regular experience with like all their family members in the stands and all that stuff. That was heartbreaking to me because I remember how important that was to me. To my family and just to spend that time with my friends and do all those things that you do as a senior, the prom and the senior, sporting events and all that stuff. I always felt bad for those kids knowing that they missed out on that very important time. Um, but no, it's also good to hear that a lot of your teachers still through that period were engaging and um, helpful and, still held meetings and stuff like that. I know Jamie and I did some of the same and had some, I had some great experiences and some great kids while doing virtual learning and really thought that I did some good and fun stuff. It was really it's a difficult time, but one that was, I think, almost kind of reinvigorated me a little bit. When I got back into the classroom, I was like, all right, we're back in the classroom. Like you kind of like had that little bit of a bounce in your step again. And that was a nice feeling. It was good to kind of go back to that.
Yeah.
Um,
I know. Unpopular opinion. I'm like one of the very few. I loved it.
no, I 100%
I
love it.
loved it so much. I loved like my being home with my family, and we were all here, and we were here for the entire school year that year. So we all had to be on like strict lockdown, and I really enjoyed my classes and my kids. And I used to have like lunch bunch with students. We
Yeah.
would eat lunch virtually with each other and stuff like that. Yeah. So and I also thought like, geez, I've been doing this job for 20 years. I have to do it for another 20. So if this is a little bit different than what I'm used to,
Yeah.
then that's okay. But I also like our own children were in 7th grade. So that's, it's like 7th grade and 3rd grade. It wasn't anything, like monumental that they were,
And I
going to be
and
missing
I
out.
also think we got lucky because 7th grade is the worst. Ready, Jamie? The worst.
Worst.
The
Yeah.
worst. It is the worst. Shout out to John Ralphio.
Yeah. Are you Parks and Rec fans?
Carson Rec. It's like our.
No, they're
It's
too
like,
young. They don't watch TV.
oh, you now have homework because
I've heard of it,
Jamie made me.
but
Got to start. All
Bad.
right, I'm going to tell you Jamie's thing. Start with season 2. Skip season 1 entirely.
Skip it.
Yep. And
Okay.
you will enjoy every moment. I guarantee you.
Amy Poehler
Um,
is a genius. Amy
yes.
Poehler just started her own podcast.
I know, and I love everything about it. She had
And
Rachel Dratch on, and I was like
yeah,
cracking
called
up.
Good Hang. Highly
Yep.
recommend. So
Yep.
good. Yeah.
we need her on here then.
Oh, come
Yes,
on,
we
Amy
do.
Poehler.
Come
And
on,
do you
Amy
want to
Poehler.
know? Sorry, Joe is the only boy here today, but what did you hear what she said about like why she started a podcast?
No.
So her ex-husband is Will Arnett, and he does Smartless with Jason
Oh,
Bateman, and
I didn't know they were divorced. I didn't know that.
oh, divorcee, yes.
Yeah.
And she said, like they don't really do anything. And like so many men, they really only give about 25%. So maybe I should also do something where I only have to give 25%. Let me do
Oh,
a
yeah.
podcast.
Oh, damn. That's amazing.
It's really funny. She
Um,
actually told them to their faces when she was just on an episode of Smartless. So highly
Nice, that's great.
recommend.
That's
Yeah.
great. Now I completely forgot what I was talking about. What was I talking about? I don't remember.
So we were talking about their road to education and choosing the path that they are now on, and so you both are currently students at TCNJ. Can you tell us what was the deciding factor for you going there?
Well, I'll take this one first because I'm a tour guide, so I definitely have this one rehearsed. But no, I mean,
You're a tour guide? Funny
But-
enough,
but-
last week I took my son and his friend on a tour of TCNJ because I was trying to maximize my travel time. And, because I also had to record a podcast for the NJAEA Aspiring Ed PodSquad podcast. And who knew that my tour guide was also going to be the student that I was on her podcast, Smallest of Small Worlds. So,
That blew my
I mean,
mind.
and you were excellent, and you were really good at walking backwards.
Thank you. You go through a lot of training, so it takes a lot of work, but you get
Yes.
to know the different parts of the sidewalks.
Oh.
This.
Wait a minute. I know now when
It's a
you
real
are
thing, the walking backwards.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when you are a senior, don't you like jump in the fountain at your
Yes.
last
Oh,
like
you knew that. Oh, wait.
Yes. I also went on a tour with they didn't have fountains when I went to that school. It was
Okay.
still
There was
rivers.
no water then.
There was no water there. There were only wells. So, but you like that. There's like a big fountain on campus, which
Yep.
wasn't there when I was there. And you guys like at your last tour, you like jump in the fountain. That's like a thing,
Exactly.
right?
It's in the
That's
science
awesome.
complex, and I was actually just at a fountain jump today. Shout out Andrew Bellos. I don't know, he's definitely not listening to this, but it was his last tour today, and he jumped in. So
I
it's a
started
really
following you guys on Instagram to watch some of the fountain jumping. Oh, it's so cute.
That's
You got,
awesome.
I mean, it's really, yes. And Chelsea did inform us of the fountain jumping on the tour.
I
Yes.
did.
But anyway, Chelsea, you were saying
Sorry.
about your reasoning behind it. We have to
Yes,
jump
no,
in
that's
there.
a perfect setup, and you know, I really chose TCNJ because of the community, and a lot of that stems from, like we're talking about, like traditions, like jumping in the fountain. I just felt like whenever I came to campus for an open house, a Lions Day, or a tour, it's just a very thriving, passionate community of people who are very invested in their studies and extracurriculars. You know, people here are not just kind of going to class and then going back to their room for the day. Like, people want to create, people want to be involved in research, people want to start their own organizations. They're very passionately driven. And I think the reputation of the School of Education was a big thing for me as well, whenever I talk to people about that. And actually, a week before I had your tour, Jamie, I was doing a tour, and I met my middle school vice principal. And she came and she said the exact line that we say, so we don't make this up. She said it, that whenever they see a resume of someone applying to work in the district, if it says TCNJ, it goes to the top of the pile. That's the exact line that I say, and she said it herself. So definitely that piece as well. You know, the reputation that we have for academics, and specifically the School of Education. Not every school gives students 2 semesters of clinicals. Not every school puts students in practicum earlier on. You know, there's definitely states out there that don't do student teaching. You just finish sort of your education related classes and then your content, and then you go into the classroom, and that's
That
Good
is
luck.
maddening.
Good luck.
Yeah, man.
blows my mind. Like,
Good
they're just
luck.
throwing you the wolves, right? So, I mean, TCNJ prepares you so well, and it's the in-classroom experiences, it's the professors who are dedicated to doing research and helping you do research. So there's a lot of layers to it, but it's really the community.
Nice.
And I knew a girl from Oklahoma exactly with that story, like 3 years in school, and then she was out because they had such a bad teacher shortage in Oklahoma that it wasn't even possible for her to have any student teaching experiences.
That's crazy.
Wow. I can't
Crazy.
imagine not
And-
doing it, not
And
having
Bianca,
some
what was
students.
behind your choice to go to TCNJ and wind up there in their education department?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I didn't really, I mean, now I can say how much I could speak to how much I love the TCNJ community, but for me, it was really more so the academic side of it because I didn't have a chance to tour the school. So, me touring the school was my parents and I driving our car around campus, and there
Oh,
were
that's right,
students
because
there. Like,
that's
it
right,
was just
because it was COVID. That's right. I didn't even think of that.
yeah.
Wow.
So any school that I applied for was like, oh, yeah, I guess Boston University sounds like a good choice. Like, let's submit an application there too. Why not? But no, TCNJ, I think the pull for me was definitely their global student teaching program because they have this opportunity for student teachers to teach abroad, which going in, I knew that was the fit for me. Like, that was exactly what I wanted from my student teaching.
Oh, wow.
And like Chelsea said, like the reputation of the program is, just hearing how many of my teachers went to TCNJ and loved their experience, like my middle school teachers and my high school teachers, that I kind of wanted to walk in their footsteps and also go to such a great school, at least in my opinion.
So are you currently student teaching? Right, you're currently student teaching.
Yes, I'm currently
Correct.
student teaching.
So are you going to be going abroad and doing something else additional?
So I just came from being abroad. I
Oh.
was abroad for half the semester, and now I'm doing like a domestic placement for the other half of the semester.
Wow. And where were you placed overseas or abroad?
So I was at Marymount International School in Paris, and they do have like different locations in Italy and in Chicago, New York. But I was at the school in Paris for about 8 weeks to a
Wow.
little over 2 months. Yeah. And that was
That
just a fantastic experience.
I I'm so jealous.
I wish I could do it again. The person who I went with, she is in a 5-year program, so she gets to do it a second time. I'm so jealous. I'm ultra jealous that she
That's
gets to
really
go again.
I did not even know that they now offered that. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What an experience that is. And another, feather in your cap when you go to apply for jobs, when the time comes for that. So you're graduating this May?
Yes. Few more
Okay.
weeks and then that's it.
Do you have a job lined up already, or are you in that mode looking for something?
So I'm currently not on the job search. I got into a master's program, and
Oh,
so
great.
I'll be going for a master's of science in math education. So I just am gonna do 2 more years of schooling and then I'll
That's
apply
great.
for jobs.
And where's the master's program also at TCNJ, or is it somewhere else?
No, and I wanted to if I was able to stay at TCNJ, I definitely would have, but they don't have a math education program, unfortunately, so I had to apply outside of TCNJ, and I chose to go to Teachers College at Columbia University in New York. So I'll
Oh,
be
wow.
in New York, starting in the fall.
That's awesome. What
Thank
a
you.
what a breadth of experiences too. That's great. And Chelsea, do you already have your student teaching placement for next year, or is that still in flux? You don't know what's going
Not
on yet?
yet. I think they're working on it, but yeah, it'll be clinical 1 in the fall and clinical 2 in the spring for next year.
That's great. I'm glad that they've changed certain things to give you guys so much more experience in the classroom. I think it lends itself to really being able to hit the ground running. Um, when you guys get your own classroom and that door shuts and you're all by yourself, you'll know that you have a good amount of tools in your toolbox to be successful. I think that's awesome.
What does clinical one look like?
Yeah, so for me, for clinical 1, it's gonna be half days, I think every day of the week, and then you do teach a 2-week unit, in the back end of the semester. And then clinical 2 is full day every day, and you're teaching full time.
They did that for us. They did a junior practicum when I was in. So it
Mm.
was like you did
Yeah.
that your junior year, and then your senior year, you did a full semester starting the middle of January until the beginning of May when your semester was going on, and that's what you did. But it's interesting that they now do it fall and spring, which I think is good because then you're backed up with okay, I'm already in this building, I'm already in that headspace. I think that's really a good way to go. That they've
Yeah, and that's
structured
a
it that way.
requirement that you have it with those 2 consecutive semesters. You can do it in the spring of your junior year and in the fall of your senior year, but they just have to
Correct.
be back to back like that.
And ours was you did it spring of your junior year, and then you could either again do either fall or spring student teaching. But I did spring of my junior year and then spring of my senior year for my student teaching,
Hmm.
which I think it's great that they give you that experience back to back. That's awesome.
Yeah. We started at sophomore year, and did 6 visits sophomore year, and
Yeah,
then
yep,
yeah, which is
yeah,
good. I'm always amazed at people who graduate from school and haven't had any experience, whatever the field is, without actually experiencing it, and then going "Oh, I don't know." It's like, how do you didn't do it while you were in school? That's
yeah.
but that does happen. Happens more than. So I have a question for you ladies. When I was becoming a teacher, if you told somebody that you were going to school for education, it was a very difficult time to get a job. There were hundreds and hundreds of applicants, for one opening. It was really difficult to find jobs, and people were often, if you said you were going to be a teacher, oh my God, it was met with a lot of really positive response. Do you find that there is, because the space is so different now with so many job openings and so many ups and downs in education right now? Do you find that people ask you in a negative way, like why, or are you met with the same kinds of responses I had?
I would say it's mixed, but it's probably a little bit more on the negative side of people. When you say that that's what you're going into, people are saying, "Oh, why would you do that? Choose something else." Or if they're actually, currently a teacher, they'll say, "Oh, like pick a different path." So it can feel a little discouraging. But then you also get positive responses of people saying, "Oh, what a notable profession! Like that's great that you're going into it. I've loved my career." So it can be mixed, and definitely in those moments when you're hearing the more negative side of things, it can make you start to rethink like, oh, why are all these people telling me to turn around now, right? But you just kind of have to rethink of, what caused you to actually want to do it in the first place. There had to have been something. There was
Right.
something there. So obviously, it's something that you're passionate about. It's something that you felt passionately about at some point, and that's why you made the decision. And so you can definitely start to rethink for a second when you're getting all those responses. But I mean, I just try to remember sort of why I chose to do it. But I would say it leans a little bit more heavily on the negative side.
I think I agree with Chelsea. I think it's definitely been mixed and it depends who you're talking to. But I think it's funny how sometimes in the buildings that I've been in, teachers will be like almost joke like it becomes a joke of like, oh, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? And they're laughing about it. And I'm like nervously chuckling about it too. But um, I think there's a lot of burnout that teachers experience and that always maybe those jokes are kind of hiding deeper problems.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nah.
For me, I think more so growing up, like, there was definitely always, like, family members or friends just saying, like, "Oh, like, why do you wanna be a math teacher?" Like, "If you're so good at math, like, why don't you go do something else in, like, IT or, like, computer science?" It's like, I'm sorry, but I can't sit behind a computer for my entire life, like, that's just not the
Yeah.
person I am. And also, don't we want our teachers to be experts in their field, be very bright, intelligent individuals? I think that's
Absolutely.
exactly
Yeah.
what a teacher should be. But yeah, now I think this has just been more mixed, like
Mm.
Chelsea was saying for me, but definitely not always immediately positive.
Yeah. Joe and I are both, because we started before 2007. Now we have the tiers system in New Jersey. And so we're both tier one. And now there are 5 tiers, which takes the retirement age for us. We're at 55 years old. And for you guys, 65 years old.
Yeah.
What does that feel like for you? Because we also, when we started, we had full medical benefits that were free. And then along the way, these things were pulled back, and we have to pay into that. So a lot of like my feeling is like the deal that I entered into was changed, and I, as like someone who has like a very strong sense of justice, just like all the middle schoolers I teach, I feel, it was like, no, it's not fair. So what do you think about that? Or does that come up for you in your discussion amongst rising educators for, trying to fight to change it, to change the system?
Well, I think first of all, to answer the second half of your question, I think sometimes, it is a real issue, but maybe aspiring educators aren't yet there where they realize how big that issue is. If we're talking about first year, second year students in college, they're not even there. They're not even close to like thinking about that. And even for seniors or like juniors and seniors who are closer to that student teaching time are not really like seeing how bad this tier system is going to be for us entering the career now. So I think some of us will be having a wake up call once we actually,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
accept the job and realize like, hey, this is not just. Um, so it can kind of be difficult to start that conversation with aspiring educators, but I know our leadership team definitely tries to say like, listen, NJEA is holding this pension Justin webinar, like join, learn more about it. Like this is a serious issue that you have to be worried about too, even
Yeah.
if your pension is
And
something you're not thinking about right now.
Right.
that's why we need like the reforms are needed so we can attract viable candidates like yourself, Bianca and Chelsea, who, might decide, you know what? I have a wealth of talent. I can make more money going into a different field. I'm out. Which is what unfortunately, it happens to a lot of people. So people like Nick Ferroni, who's been on your show, who's talked often about advocating for, tier one for everyone, right? Which is kind of like the movement and some of the bills that are on the House and Senate floor right now. And also a friend of our show, um, Teacher Pay with K, Kristen, who's been on and talks. She is a fantastic follow on Instagram. She's posting constantly about pension reform and what politicians are supporting it and why it's important that we do it. What does it look like in other states? I mean, she's fantastic, and definitely for anyone who's listening from the NJAEA side of things, definitely give her a follow, because if you're interested in going into the profession, knowing what that pension system is going to look like and what it's going to look like for you in retirement is very important to kind of know going into the job. Because you're like, I'm young, I'm not going to be doing it. Like, you will blink your eyes and then you will be 49 years old on a podcast with your good teacher friend and two lovely young ladies at another school, and you'll go, where did the time go? Old man shakes fist at sky. Like, literally,
But also,
that's
do we
ends up
really
happening.
do we want people that old, and not for life, just for the classroom, like with our children all the time? Because that for me even is an issue, I think. Like, this is my 24th year teaching. I'm not yet 46 years old. I was not able to take maternity leaves. So I went back really quickly after my kids. Right. The opposite story of that is like there's also a lot of women who are gone for a really long time and then come back to the profession. So I've had people who had to keep working because they didn't have the years, right? They had the age, but not the years. But so at this point, like I would need to be working another 10 years, which to me like seems completely and totally reasonable. The idea in my head of having to work another 20 years would put me at 44 years in the classroom.
Yeah.
And that,
You want to talk about burnout?
I
Yeah.
mean, they talk about, how much gas do you have in the tank? I don't know. Obviously every year is different and all the groups of kids are different. But even like as a parent, I don't know that, do I think that, someone who's been doing something for 45 years are they, are they full of enough energy to be on the floor with the kindergartners?
They're 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 the exception and not the rule.
And not that
You
there
know,
aren't some, but to make everyone, it's so that's tier one. We rally, we agree, we think everybody should be
yeah.
tier
And,
one
the
together.
expression, what is it? Youth is wasted on the young, right? Like, I'm in class and I'm doing stations and I'm running around and I'm using brain rot speech like, "What up, fam? Skibbity toilet, Rizzler, Ohio," all that fun stuff. And now there's like Italian brain rot, and I'm like, "Please leave me alone. Leave me. Why are there more things that I now have to learn
That
to
I've
try
never
and
heard of. So maybe
Oh, it's new. You bet. Listen, you two better bone up.
Are you
Okay?
are you glazing? Are you I'm like glaze. I'm glazing.
Yeah.
Glazing. You're a glazer. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Like I low key crashed out, bruh. I'm like, okay, can you stop,
That I
please?
know.
Yeah,
That I
of
know.
chicken
course.
jockey.
Yeah.
Chicken jockey.
Yeah. Why are we yelling chicken jockey in class?
Chicken
Can we
jockey.
just stop it? And they love
My
it when I
favorite
use
movie.
it because they just laugh at me because I'll always look at someone and I'll be like, did I use that right? Did I do it? And they'll be like, no. Or sometimes they're
Or
like,
my favorite from last year. Yeah.
yeah, that was her favorite. I know Chelsea's cracking up right now.
Like, don't say it. I'm like, I
No, I
love to
mean,
say
like,
it.
the idea of youth is wasted on the young, right? Like, the energy you have to put into the job, like, and the enthusiasm and the, constantly staying on the cusp of like new things and how it's going to be incorporated in the classroom and, curriculum changes and all the things. And then, like we talk about on this show about how we balance it all. And I don't know what your plans are for your futures, but, having a spouse, starting a family, are do you guys want to coach sports and be involved in that realm of things? Like Chelsea, you had said about like National Junior Honor or National Honor Society, and like maybe that's something you want to do. That's all extra things. Like, yeah, you might get paid for it, but they're labors of love in a lot of ways, right? Like, you're not making stacks on stacks coaching a JV soccer team, but you're putting a lot of time and effort and energy into doing that. Anyway, that's just me waxing poetic about the profession. I think it's very important for young people. If new people going into the profession get loud and speak their voice and say like, "Hey, this needs to be changed so we can keep people in the profession," changes are going to happen. If it only comes from old man shakes fist at sky, then the work. I mean, there's still noise happening, but it doesn't happen as quickly as it should. So
And if we could just, put a little more energy in that space, I mean, the tier system is already like a slap across the face of like, okay, teachers are not valued as much as they should be. Um, and then that especially goes for new teachers now coming into the field. But then once you add on top of it, once you're in a teacher preparation program and you're asked to do your student teaching, that internship, that gas money, that food, everything that goes into presenting yourself as the best teacher as you possibly can in these student teaching experiences is not compensated in any way.
Yeah.
And so that acts as a humongous barrier for someone who doesn't have, X amount of dollars to do X amount of things. Like, for instance, for Clinical One, for my junior practicum, which is my senior practicum, I guess my first practicum, right? My first student teaching.
Got it.
My school was a 40-minute drive. So I had people carpooling with me who didn't have their own vehicle. We're splitting gas money, stuff like that. But, you know, how is that an expectation of me when other student teachers had their placement in Ewing High School, which is like a 10-minute drive? So it's definitely a big question of like, how are we going to support student teachers and show them that, we want you coming into this field with everything that you got, being the strongest that you can, and we're willing to compensate you to do that. And that has to come from the state. Like that has to be, something that we have that's permanent. So yeah, like Chelsea and I are big advocates for paid student teaching because it's one of the only internships where we're not compensated, and that's at that point exploitation. So we really like that needs to change.
That's an
too.
interesting point.
Yeah.
There's also this I think there's this prevailing opinion of like, well, I went through it that way, so they should do it the same way. Like, no, like we can change things and make it better. We can make it more, equitable. For people that are going, and that's yet another incentive for people to stay in the profession. Like, hey, a little bit of extra, and so it goes towards your, your tuition bill might be a little bit different, or maybe like, oh, you're going to go into teaching and you're going to do this, then, you get some kind of subsidy or gas taken care of or mileage on your car. Like, I get it. That's another important thing and something that, young people with your voice can definitely continue to fight for.
Yeah, and we've had a couple meetings with some legislators in New Jersey just to talk about this. And most importantly, we brought to them some testimonials that comes directly from student teachers in New Jersey. And they tell some very powerful stories of, being up at night and doing your lesson planning while also like clipping coupons to be able to pay for groceries the next day.
Yeah.
So we've heard a lot of those stories, and we've brought those directly to some legislators in New Jersey. So we've been working on that campaign through NJAEA. But obviously you need the support of, the state as a whole and the state legislature to be able to push that forward. So it's something that's sort of in progress, and we've seen it be improved in other states. And so we're trying to catch New Jersey up to speed a little bit with that.
So what are the two of you, not to change focus, but like, what are the two of you most excited about to like, once you start your career, and I've said before, when that door closes and you are all on your own, what excites you the most about that experience? Like, what are you most looking forward to?
I mean, I think it's the connections with the students. In a lot of my classes, like over the course of the year, you definitely just become like one tight knit family. And so I'm excited to be a part of that and really to see like the students grow into their own, especially like at the secondary level, middle school or high school. I think the students like change a lot over the course of the year, and they're growing, they're developing. So I'm very excited to see sort of, how they progress throughout the year. And, you might have students like throughout multiple years of high school. You might have someone in their freshman year of high school and then see them again and have them in class again in senior year. So to see those 4 years of growth, I think that's very rewarding, and you're proud of them. And selfishly, it's also like rewarding for you to see that you've sort of been a part of that journey. So I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Awesome. Bianca, what about you?
100%. I 100% agree. The connections with students, I think, is like the one thing that makes you feel like you make an impact on someone's life every single day. And for me personally, I think I just want students to see that math is not this, like cloudy thing that, you can't you always have a rain cloud raining on you. Like it's something that there is sunshine, and I just want to have fun with it. Like I don't want it to be that class that everyone dreads coming to.
Well, too bad, because you're teaching math, so everyone's going to dread coming.
I have to say one of like
zing.
Yeah, one of my most favorite compliments from kids, because they'll tell you if your roots need to be dyed, and they'll tell you if you look tired or your shoes are ugly or whatever. They'll tell you all the things. But one of the things and it is a very generous compliment from a middle school child, like, whoa, this class went so fast.
Oh, I
the
love
class
that.
is over already. We didn't even do anything,
My response is always, time flies when you're having fun.
Oh my goodness. And it is true. It's like, so those little things or like when you see them, and they're just so excited to see you, like so genuinely happy to see you. And and those are the things that I still get really, and don't get me wrong, like I love a clipboard. Like there are some classic. I also played teacher in the basement of my house with my, and my dad was a principal. So he brought us like school desks. So like, yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, it was all the things, right?
It was
It was
trust
like
me.
the real, yeah. But the excitement of like a new packet of like Post-its. There's just something. And when I did my student teaching, I loved my cooperating teacher, and he had my going away party with the kids was a teacher shower. And so it was like everything that a new teacher could need. And it was like I got a wastebasket and pens. It was just all of the, I used that stuff for years. It was awesome. It was such a good idea. And and so I don't know, there is some like a thrill of like a good school supply too. I don't know if that's just
Yeah.
and
Well-
getting to decorate and design and the whole thing. So we hope that every single experience that you guys have, and also don't forget to reach out to people who are still loving what they're doing, just like us, because we can get you through even, some of the tough days. That's what we do for each other.
Yeah. Well, I know that our profession's going to be when I'm old in a rocking chair drinking lemonade or bourbon. Our profession is going to be well taken care of by young people like yourselves and others who are also going into the profession. So Bianca and Chelsea, we appreciate you very much for joining us today. Jamie, I appreciate you as always.
Joe, Bianca, Chelsea, I appreciate you. I appreciate the NJAEA and the NJEA.
Yeah. And just if you love this conversation, once again, definitely go to the NJAEA Aspiring Ed PodSquad podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify and YouTube podcasts, and you can listen to our conversation with the many wonderful questions that Bianca and Chelsea asked us. Definitely join them and us over there to hear what they had to say. So we will see everybody next time on the Balancing Act podcast. Thank you, Bianca and Chelsea.
Thank you both so much for having us.
you.
We did it.
All right, see you next time.
Bye.
Look for the Balancing Act podcast every week on your favorite podcast platform. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Thank you for being a part of our audience. We appreciate you.